Hello everyone, it's time for another kit ranking for the new season, and with the most stacked kits we've ever had in an update by a large margin, it's gonna be a real contest to see which weapons come out on top. So if you enjoy this ranking, be sure to subscribe, and let's get into the list. At my number 10 pick, it's gotta be the custom Hydra spotling. I don't even think the kit is bad. Mine is fine to set up really, and screen is something you can play around to help deal with longer range weapons. I just think Hydra is not a great main weapon for competitive play. It's pretty good at lower ranks, but the faster the game gets, the slower Hydra feels, and I think the weapon is just dramatically outpaced on top of having huge counters in the meta, such as Pencil, to the point where I don't think this is going to have much of an impact. Number 9 would be the second Recycle Brella. I think that the main weapon of Recycle is still pretty bad, but it has its moments where the high damage can shine, and Splashdown happens to synergize very well with that. You can get a decent amount of them and combine that with the main weapon's damage to get some solid picks if you play some kind of quick respawn playstyle. But Toxic Mist unfortunately is where the synergy just kind of falls apart. It has a little bit of situational usefulness, but kind of just takes away from the main weapon and special weapon's damage comboing so well together when you're using 60% of your ink tank to throw it. Sometimes it can contribute to trapping people at least, especially to set up the splashdown, but it's just a bit underwhelming of a sub, and the main weapon still has a pathetic shield that unfortunately hasn't gotten any buffs since its launch. It's a step up from the vanilla kit at least though, so that's nice. At number 7 and number 8 is the brand new Wellstring 5. Now while both of these are next to each other, I will start by saying I think the clear winner of this kit is the vanilla one. While Point Sensor is not bad for it by any means, I think this weapon excels with its constant damage, and Auto Bomb puts out a bit more pressure while still filling the location tool. Specials wise, while both Wavebreaker and Hammer aren't great, Wellstring has to play pretty aggressively at times to get the value it needs, meaning I think it is in positions where Hammer can help it out a decent bit. It's felt a little bit better on it than I thought. However, if Wavebreaker were to be buffed, I think that could end up changing which kit is better. As for the main weapon, I think it is very annoying. That's probably the best part about it. The huge amount of explosions can be a little bit to deal with. However, I don't know, I think it still kind of breaks down. The main weapon is a little bit slow since it's heavyweight with a bit of a charge time. The one shot up close can be a bit difficult to pull off, and while it does have a lot of range, the shots are very spread out at that range, forcing you to combo with other weapons, and unlike something like Explosher, the radius size for that AoE is a lot smaller and less reliable than that weapon. Same for the pain, in fact. It definitely feels more aggressive than Explo and has some properties like the one shot that help it out a little bit, but I think it doesn't synergize as well with the comps it's on, and unlike Custom Explo, has a much weaker special that makes it harder to work around for the types of weapons you want to play with it. I could still see potential for this to be higher though in the hands of a good bow player because it just does have a lot more it can do than Tri-Stringer, so potentially if someone can get really good with the main weapon, I could see it higher. At 5 and 6 is the other brand new weapons of the Decapitators, both Mint and Charcoal. This is another contest between the two kits that I don't think has a huge gap, but I would give the edge to Charcoal. I think Suction Bomb is nice for the weapon, understatement of the year, I know, and Bubble is pretty neat. You can dash in to set it up, or have it cancel some of the end lag on your flicks in order to be able to attack a little bit faster. I think the Charcoal kit just enables the main weapon a little bit more. This weapon really struggles at hitting anything that isn't on the same horizontal plane as it, and doesn't have any form of area of effect. And while Suction helps with that a little bit, Jetpack helps a lot more, and gives the weapon an easy mobility tool it can use to get out of bad situations, while also just being a better special in its own right. Wall is a little bit awkward to use at times, but it's good to stabilize or set you up. I think this is a weapon that sharks a lot, so it doesn't get as much out of it as I thought, but it has its moments for sure. As for the main weapon, the dash slash is pretty insane for assassin kills. If you're sharking kind of like a roller or trying to dash around in a corner, it's pretty useful, but the lag of the weapon does cause some problems. The slashes are really slow, which means even if you get a kill with the dash slash, you could just be traded out pretty easily. And honestly, it's not even impossible for someone to kill you before your dash completes. This also holds true for the main weapon's swings, which are both slower and has much less range than Splatana Stamper, the charge slash being more ink hungry. The paint and larger hitbox are definitely a nice bonus, but I think it's just a lot of downsides. However, being the only good frontline jetpack option is still a big reason to pick the weapon. This weapon plays differently than Stamper, so it's not outclassed by any means, but I think it's going to be a bit difficult to deal with mid-range weapons, but still plenty viable and a pretty strong option, so I think we'll be seeing a good bit of Charcoal if someone wants to push its potential. Like with the bow, given how new this is, and with a lot of strong traits, I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up higher later on. Number 4 is the Bamboo Mark II. I think Bamboo is a pretty good weapon for this meta. It's great against a lot of the mid-range weapons and has decent pain and uptime ever since it was buffed back to 14 shots. Fizzy Bomb on this weapon is just perfect, it helps with its paint even more, can poke longer range enemies, and is an insanely good combo tool. And on top of that, Super Chump is great. It's an instant ink tank refill that can block for you and only adds to the paint potential. On zones especially, being able to use double Fizzies, Super Chump, and another 2 Fizzies are pretty ridiculous. This weapon gets a lot of paint output, which opens it up a fair bit for team comps. And I think chumps right now aren't bad. On zones especially, I think they're actually pretty good. The insane paint output is quite useful, and they're particularly nice when chained with another special, since it's such a wide area where people have to reveal themselves in order to deal with the chumps. Number 3 is the custom Dowser Dualies. I'm a huge believer in this weapon personally, and I think Burst Bomb on it is amazing. You can technically play this with Pencil, which might work, but I think it might actually shine better being this pseudo-anchor of a backless comp. Being able to follow around contributing damage to other fighting weapons, as well as throwing Burst Bombs for them. It's an amazing support kit that will constantly allow you to help your team, while the Burst Bombs comboed with the dodge roll give you plenty of options for up-close fighting, meaning it's not susceptible to getting rushed down. The paint is a little bit of the weaker side in long-range mode compared to similar weapons like Jet Squelcher, and the one dodge roll still has a good bit of end lag to it, but I think the main weapon is such a good enabler for so many of the strong weapons in the game, and it is a great option for Tri-Strike, which has been sorely lacking currently. All in all, it is a really excellent package. Number 2 is the Crab Edit. Between this and the other weapon on this list, I really wasn't sure which one was going to go on top, but I think Crab Edit is still going to have a little bit of struggles when it comes to the comps. Splat Bomb and Crab is an amazing kit that pushes an already fast main weapon to be even more aggressive and gives it a lot of potential. On top of this, having a special with no cooldown after using it means you can cycle Crab a ridiculous amount, giving this weapon crazy uptime between 5 full charges, which is more than enough to give you your special, and you basically just never have to recover your ink tank. The weapon's long charge time does still mean that it can struggle a little bit paired with certain comps, which is where I think this is going to be a little bit more tricky. I don't think you can run it with Pencil on most maps in the game, and so you're going to have to do a zap comp, which makes it a little bit more difficult to make it work. However, I've always thought that Edit is an underutilized main weapon aggressively, and I'm hoping this kit's added potential really helps out with it. At the end of the day though, I have to give number 1 to the custom Range Blaster. Range is already in a pretty good spot, and while I don't think this kit is that much better than the vanilla one, the added playmaking potential definitely still makes it better than the original kit to me. Splat Bomb is both nice as a get off me tool, but also an aggressive option that you can take advantage of much faster than Suction Bomb. And while Kraken does have a bit of startup and you don't have the gear freedom to run special power, it's still a good way to extend kill streaks, stay alive when you absolutely need to, as well as pressure some options you wouldn't be able to normally, such as going for object damage on a crab tank. This kit might not have the insane power as it does in Splatoon 1, but it's definitely still a top tier weapon that's going to be a major threat. So that being said, that's my ranking of all the new weapons. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll see you guys next time.